The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Listening to this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship with Foyle Legal. For advice tailored to your situation, please consult a qualified legal professional. Welcome to Personal Injury Claims Explained by Foyle Legal, your trusted source for understanding personal injury claims in Western Australia. Each week, we simplify complex legal issues, from motor vehicle accidents to workplace injuries, so you can confidently navigate your rights and claim the compensation you deserve.
All right, so you're heading to Western Australia, huh? Awesome.
Yeah.
Cycling adventures await, those views, the routes. But before you pack your panniers, we're going to tackle something less scenic, but equally important. Cycling accidents.
Yeah, because let's face it, no matter how experienced you are, you can't control what other people are doing out there on the road.
Exactly. And this article from Foyle Legal, a personal injury firm in Perth, really drove that point home. They drop a pretty staggering stat right off the bat. $28 million, that's right, million, paid out in a single year for cycling accident claims in WA alone.
It's a stark reality check, you know? It shows just how often these accidents happen.
Right. It's not just a one-off thing. And speaking of realities, the article really digs into how tricky it can be to figure out who's actually at fault when a bike and a car collide. Because it's not always crystal clear, is it?
It really isn't. I mean, you can't just automatically point the finger at the car every time. The article gives these two really common scenarios. So imagine this. You're cruising along a bike path, right? Suddenly, someone backs out of their driveway without looking, boom, accident. In that case, the driver would most likely be liable. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's the classic driveway nightmare.
Right. But then, picture this. You're on the road, sharing the lane, and a car tries to squeeze past you, way too close for comfort, almost clipping you. That's when things get a bit murky.
Oh, tell me about it. Those close calls can really rattle you. So how do they even begin to decide who's to blame in a situation like that?
Well, that's where all these different factors come into play. Like, where exactly were you positioned on the road? Did you signal properly? What was the speed limit? It can be a bit of a puzzle, honestly, with both parties potentially sharing some of the responsibility. And this is important for you listening because even if you're partially at fault, you might still be eligible for some compensation. It's not an automatic, you're out of luck situation.
Okay, so that's good to know. But it definitely adds another layer of complexity to the whole thing.
It does. So let's say hypothetically you're in this unfortunate situation. The first thing you absolutely have to do is report the accident to the police. Get that on record right away. And then you'd file something called a notice of intention to make a claim with the ICWA, that's the Insurance Commission here in WA.
Notice of intention to make a claim. Got it. Sounds pretty official.
It is. It's basically a formal heads up that you might be seeking compensation for the accident. And this is where understanding the potential value of a claim becomes super important. To illustrate this, the article talks about a cyclist who, tragically, became paraplegic after an accident.
It's a heavy thought for sure. Makes you realize it's not just about those immediate bumps and bruises.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to understand the full scope of what you could be entitled to if something like that were to happen. It goes way beyond just, oh, here's the bill for your ER visit. We're talking about the long-term impact on your life.
Right. And speaking of long-term, the article keeps mentioning this other category of compensation, non-pecuniary loss. Honestly, it sounds a little vague.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? But it's actually not as complicated as it sounds. Think of it this way, okay? You break your leg, right?
Yeah.
Medical bills, the physiotherapy, all that, that's one thing. But then there's the fact that maybe you're a huge hiker, and now you can't hit the trails for months, maybe even years. That's a loss too, you know? And the law recognizes that. It gets that an accident can mess with your life in ways you don't see on an X-ray.
Okay, so it's like putting a price tag on things you wouldn't normally think of. Like the sheer joy of hopping on your bike, the wind in your hair, all that's got to be factored in, right?
Exactly. And while, yeah, no amount of money can truly make up for those experiences, at least in Western Australia, there's actually a maximum payout for this non-pecuniary loss.
Okay, that's a pretty serious number. Shows they're not messing around over there. But you've got me thinking now. We keep talking about what to do after an accident. What about during my trip? Like, what are some things I could do to minimize those risks in the first place?
Such a good question. It's all about being proactive, right? Taking control of the things you can control even before you set foot or wheel, in this case, onto those Western Australian roads.
Right, right. So Hit me with it. Pre-tour checklist, what's on there?
Well, for starters, careful route planning is absolutely key. Ask yourself, am I really comfortable navigating those busy highways? Or would I feel a whole lot safer sticking to dedicated bike paths, maybe some quieter back roads? Trust me, researching your route ahead of time, knowing what you're getting yourself into, that can make a world of difference.
Yeah, that's like choosing your battles before you even get on the bike.
Exactly. And while we're talking about being prepared, let's talk about, if despite your best efforts, you do end up in an accident.
Right.
The article really emphasizes how important it is to gather evidence at the scene, even if you don't think you're seriously hurt.
Okay, so what does that look like, practically speaking? Like, worst case scenario, I'm picking myself up off the asphalt. What's my first move after did someone get the bike's number?
First things first, make sure you're safe, out of harm's way, right? Then, if you're able to, grab your phone. Start documenting everything. Photos of the damage to your bike, the position of the vehicles, anything around you that could be relevant later on.
So basically, create a visual record of what happened.
Exactly. And if there are any witnesses around, even just people passing by, try to get their information, their contact details, someone who saw what happened, A neutral party can be a huge help later on.
Okay. Photos, witnesses. It's a lot to remember when you might be, a little shaken up.
It definitely can be overwhelming in the moment, which is why it's good to be mentally prepared beforehand, like another item on your pre-tour safety checklist.
Good point.
Speaking of practicalities, let's talk about this phrase they kept using in the article, no win, no fee. You ever come across that before?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I'll be honest, it always felt a little too good to be true. Like, what's the catch?
It's a fair question. So basically, it means that a law firm, they take on your case, and they only charge you legal fees if they actually win a settlement for you. If they don't win, you don't pay their fees. It's supposed to make legal help more accessible, especially in these situations where people might be struggling financially after an accident.
Right. Takes a bit of the pressure off when you've got other things to deal with.
Exactly. But it's important to remember no win, no fee doesn't necessarily mean no cost overall. There might be other expenses, disbursements they call them, that you might be responsible for regardless of the outcome.
Okay, so always read the fine print.
Always read the fine print.
Good advice, for sure. Now, one last thing that occurred to me, the article focuses a lot on the driver's liability. What if I hit a car? What happens then?
That's a really interesting point. So in Western Australia, car drivers have to have third-party insurance, right? Cyclists, on the other hand, we
swerve and dent a parked car. I'm on the hook for that.
Potentially, yeah. Which is why being a responsible cyclist isn't just about following the rules for your own safety, but thinking about how your actions impact others, financially even.
Wow, okay. Food for thought. Well, this has been honestly eye-opening. I feel way more prepared, even a bit wiser about navigating those WA roads now. It's like a crash course in cycling safety and the legal side of things.
Glad we could help clear some of that up.
Me too. And to our listener out there, we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and confidence you need for your own Western Australia cycling adventure. Remember, safety first, and enjoy those incredible views.
Thank you for listening to Personal Injury Claims Explained by Foyle Legal. We hope this episode helped clarify your rights and next steps in your injury claim. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and visit foylelegal.com for more useful information. See you next time.